Hey everybody, welcome to the Dice Tower live. Didn't do one last week. Should have probably. My apologies for that. So just getting everything set up here and moving around. It's interesting. I was just thinking that we should probably have our Kickstarter like the month before Cyber Monday, because I'm looking at all these electronics and things that are on sale today. I'm like, today would be a good day to buy all this stuff for the Dice Tower. So anyhow, if you have any questions to ask them in the YouTube comments, and I will get started answering those. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I will not answer every question. I'll answer the ones I think are interesting, and some questions have been asked ad nauseum. And this is probably not a good point for you to say, should I get such and such a game? Because hey, that's the point of our reviews, for you to check those out. It looks like we just passed 60 million views on our YouTube channel, so that's pretty cool. November was not as big of a month as September and October were, but that's always been the case. I mean, and we did take a week off, but it still was a good month overall, and we'll see how December goes. I have some fun stuff, I think, coming this month. We should be getting up the playthrough of the Marcy case for Time Stories sometime this month. All of our end of the year stuff is coming. We have some... I'm going to do at least one more of the extraneous top 10s about other stuff. And maybe a little bit more. You'll see a best of the month this week. The Blender's best of the month. So that'll be interesting. So let's get started. Questions. In this My Gaming group, the only one that thinks that it's weird that Fantasy Flight hasn't announced any expansions for Forbidden Stars. I don't actually find that sort of thing weird, considering Forbidden Stars has been out for just maybe half a year at the most. I don't think you need to announce an expansion. They probably have to work with licensing with Games Workshop and different things, and I don't know all the ins and outs of that. They'll probably announce one at their leisure. I like the game; it's fun, and it's a game that I'm actually would really like expansions for. I'd like to see some more stuff for each of the thing, and I think it's very expandable. But at the same time, I don't think it's weird they haven't announced it yet. Again, the game's less than a year old. Most games don't get that stuff. Let's see. As for when you will see reviews, I said this last week, but you will see reviews when we get them done. There's all sorts of different games coming each week on my Board Game Breakfast. I give you a taste of what's coming that week. So there's some games that are going to take us longer to get to, and others. We just revamped our whole queue pile, and last we checked, there was 304 games that we have to get through and review. Now there's a few less than that, actually. It's probably down to 290 or 280 at this point, but that's still a lot that we have to go through, and I'm working on it. And I'll get to the game you want at some point, or maybe I never will. Sometimes there's a game that we just decide that we're not going to review. It's unfortunate, but I think we review enough games over the course of a year. I notice that many people store their games vertically, like me, here. Why is that? Seems to make the components in the box we get all screwed up. Why store vertically? I store vertically because it looks better on the shelf. It's also easier to pull one out. Right? If I want to pull this out, it's easy. If I want to pull this one out here, I have to pull everything above it. So it's just a bigger pain. It also puts more weight on the boxes. It's probably better for the boxes to store them like this. Now, of course, that's a pain in the neck when there's stuff inside it. Well, if you have a good insert that's really good, it might not work. But for me, for the most part, I bag all my pieces. I rubber band my cards. So sure, the stuff might be here in the box and down, but what does it matter? It's not that big of a deal. I'm not shaking my boxes, so I think it's okay. I did have a good Thanksgiving. Thank you. I hope you guys had a great one too. Unless, of course, you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, you're overseas. And let's see, Canada's Thanksgiving is in October, and Korea celebrates Chuseok, which is a very flexible day. It's kind of like Easter in America. So there you go. Whew. Wow, there's a lot of questions already. I need to get started on these. Here we go. What's on my hat? Is it a sports team logo? No, this is Babe's. This is a chicken family-style restaurant that I really liked in Dallas. We went to BGG Con. I go there each year, and I had a good time, and I like this hat, and I really liked it. It doesn't look like a hat advertising a restaurant, so I pick up a couple hats. I picked up 2 hats. Or 3 hats. Someone gave me my England hat that I wore in the Board Game Breakfast today, And then I got this one, and then I also got a Return of the Jedi hat that I really liked, that I found at the Madness Gaming Shop, which is an amazing. If you're anywhere near Dallas, you are blessed to have such a humongous game store in your area. Okay, let's see. Which Ticket to Ride is your least favorite? I think it's pretty much Europe. Although, saying it's not my least favorite is very minor, right? I like them all. But I think Europe, to me, feels the easiest, and I like the struggle players have getting routes in Europe. You basically can get the route you want. People really can't stop you. And I like being able to stop people. Are we going to be sharing our con schedule once it's complete? Well, I don't think it's not a big secret what our con schedule is for next year. We are going to the Gamma Trade Show in March. We are going... Oh, hang on. I'll just go get it. I don't know why I'm going to sit here and wonder what it is when I have it written down. So, we're going to be going to different places. Now, there may be some set in stone, but let me see. So, March is the first convention. That's the GTS Game Trade Show. I'll be on the Gathering of Friends in April. In May, I'll be going to, I think, this one's not set in stone yet, but it probably will happen, and that's Cool Mini or Not. In June, I'm going to both UK Gaming Expo and Origins. In July, Dice Tower Con, of course. In August, Gen Con, of course. In September, we'll be going to a smaller convention up in Connecticut. We'll have more details on that as time goes by. In October, we're going to Essen. I do not know what the rest of the year. I did not mention BGG Con because I have not decided whether I'm going to go yet or not. I really, really like BGG Con. Although over the course of the year, it may have been... Well, I said my least favorite con, but that sounds really bad. I really did like BGG Con. But it's really close to when we might be doing our cruise. So, which hopefully I'll know that information soon this week. I need to get cracking on that. But I'm basically waiting for them to get back to me. But, so I haven't decided on BGG Con, but those are that. I do not think we will add any other things to this. I mean, maybe if someone got to me in February, I have February open, maybe I would go to a convention then, but one a month seems pretty legitimate, so that's where we're at right now. Turkey or ham? Definitely turkey, although I do like ham a lot, and a good sandwich has turkey and ham. Have I seen the Marvel Civil War trailer? Yes, I really like it. Marvel Civil War is my second favorite storyline in Marvel Comics, with being very close to first. My first is Age of Apocalypse, which I really like, and it looks like that one may be coming around in movies too. But I really like the Avengers. I've made my peace with the fact the movies and the comics are not going to be the same. So I see a lot of stuff in the trailer like, that person was on this side. They're flip-flopping a few people, I think, in the movies, but that's okay. And the U.S. agent, or, well, what's his name in there? The Winter Soldier was not nearly as big of a deal in the comics as they're making him in this movie. But again, I don't have a problem with any of that. So I'm pretty happy with where it is. And there was also other characters that I doubt you'll see Luke Cage be a big deal in the Civil War. But... because, they haven't fully realized his comics, and I'm not sure how the Netflix characters are going to transfer to the big screen, if at all. But I liked it. I'm very excited about it. I think I'm more excited about it currently than I am about Avengers 3, even though this is Avengers 3, basically. What will you do during the Christmas holidays outside of board gaming? Celebrate them with my family. Nothing much else planned. I don't have anything planned for Christmas. Christmas is a busy time of year for me. There's a lot of work that goes into planning and prepping for the Kickstarter. How much persuasion does it take to get the various members of your family to appear on camera with you for reviews? I ask them. If they say no, they do not have to be in a review. That is why you never see my wife, and that is why you see some kids less than other kids. And that's no big deal. Some of them just want to do it more than others. Also, though, there are some times where I would really like to have them in on a specific review, but I'm recording that review when they're in school or whatever, and it's too much work to rearrange it so I can record with them at a specific time. Do you buy board games as gifts for other people? No, I mean, sometimes. Sometimes I'll get board games for other people, but not often. No, I don't want to make it like Tom's the board game guy. He just gets. I've always been a firm believer that when you shop for someone else, you are shopping for them. You're not shopping for you, and you're not shopping to give them something that you know they'll like. I always thought that was crazy. Why would you give something to someone that you know they'll like? Or I'm sure you'll like it, like, oh, you've never seen Game of Thrones? Well, I bought you the first 3 seasons. Why would you not buy something you know they like? I've always been a strong proponent of that. But so many people shop either from their own idea of what people like. That's why people don't get stuff they like, because people don't take the time to figure out, what does this person want? What are your theories as to where Luke Skywalker is in the trailers? I'm trying to make no theories. I'm almost disappointed with as much as I know about the Star Wars already, which isn't much, right? But I almost wish sometimes I hadn't seen the trailers, because then I go into the movie like, wow, being wowed by everything. So I'm trying not to find out anything or even make speculation in my head. I'm just going to go in with a clean slate. I know the extended universe really well. Like, I've read all the books, and I know those have been all wiped out, which doesn't bother me, because they didn't come to my house and burn my books, so I can still read them. So I don't know what to expect, and I'm good with that. Have you read any more good fantasy novels lately? I have not, although that's because, I usually tend towards science fiction. I recently read Ready Player One and the sequel to that, Armada. Ready Player One I loved so much. I was just enjoying all the different references. The idea of this virtual world was really interesting to me, and I really enjoyed it. Armada I enjoyed a lot less. I mean, people said it's not as good as the first one. I was like, who cares? Who cares? You guys have way too high expectations. And I go in and I read it, and it wasn't. The second one felt like the pop culture references were much more forced. They were forced in the first one, but because the first one was couched in the premise of a game where you needed to know all that knowledge, it made sense. In the second one, everyone walking around and spitting out 80s movie references all the time got really old, I think. The plot line also seemed to be completely lifted from other novels, and the stakes didn't feel real. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't horrible, but it felt very jarring. It felt like it just wasn't as good as the first one. But that's what I've been reading lately. Now I'm in the middle of reading a compilation of short stories. I forget what it's called, but they're based on video games. So like every author, they ask many different authors to write them, but the whole thing, each short story has to have something to do about a video game. So some of them take place in a video game, some of them take place about people who play video games, some of them, mix the two. Some are really good, and some of them I just found very bad. There's a lot of them that almost follow the same pattern, where it's like those old text things, and they tried to make that into a short story, which I found most of those were just not that interesting. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, man. I appreciate, guys, all these questions. Just realize that I'm really going to be super far behind when I answer these. So, and then every once in a while, YouTube will shoot me to the very bottom. So, here we go. I caught back up. I have not tried any expansions for Blood Rage at this point in time. Let's see. Where do you think Pandemic Legacy is going to wind up on the short list of co-op games? I don't know. I'm very curious to see where it's going to show up on our best of the year list. Where do you think it's going to show up on mine? Where do you think it's going to show up on Z's or Sam's or everyone else? I don't know. Well, I know where it's on mine because I've already made my top 10 list for the year. It is possible that my top 10 list will change at this point. But even when I mentioned I have like these 290 games to go through, and I look at all of them, and I don't imagine that any of them would crack my top 10. But maybe one will. But then you'll have to hear about that in 2016 probably. Like I played a bunch of games this week. Just past Saturday, I'm going to play some tonight. There were some really interesting games there. A couple bad ones, but some interesting ones. But nothing that would crack the top 10. The top 10 for this year, folks, is solid. And I almost wept a little bit when there was games 11 and 12. I was like, these should be in my top 10. But I had to knock them out. So, am I going to do a video of the process into developing the expansion for Sheriff? Not really, because it's really boring. But essentially, me and Z brainstormed some ideas. Then Z and Steve Avery brainstormed some ideas. Then I brainstormed those ideas back. And now we've sent it to the original designer of the game, who's brainstorming ideas on top of that. So that's where it's not that exciting. Tom, you said that you always want people to play more games. However, do you think that designers tend to use themes that are not mainstream enough and cater to more gamers, like zombies, sci-fi, and fantasy? Well, first of all, why are you under the impression that those themes are not mainstream right now? Have you heard of The Walking Dead? You know, I mean, these are certainly mainstream themes. Yeah, maybe they're not mainstream for grandma and grandpa, but for people my age, these are not unusual themes. It used to be, I'd be like, yeah, this game's about fantasy. People be like, but now there's a lot of people that would really attract. But besides all that, sure, there's a lot of games with zombies and sci-fi and fantasy, and there are tons of games that are not about fantasy and all that sort of thing. So I don't see that that's really a big deal at all. I will not be coming to Seattle this year, probably. I don't think I've been invited to Seattle, so likely not. You mentioned that you're not a fan of expansions that add a sixth or more player. What made you decide to add a sixth player to Sheriff of Nottingham in the expansion? Because people want it. Just because I'm not a fan of it doesn't mean that other people won't want it. I figured with the idea of giving a sixth or even a seventh player in expansions, people can play those. Some people don't mind the longer game. Some people really want to play it with six, so why not give them that opportunity? And if worse comes to worse, maybe someone wants a different character. For one thing, we need more female characters in the game. So I can guarantee you the sixth character will be female. But that's why. Do you own a propeller hat? I don't. Would you like to? I don't know. The propeller hat says, I'm stupid. That's really what the hat says. I think my daughter owned one at one point, but the propeller broke off. Or was that me? I don't remember who owned it. I'd probably wear it for laughs. I'd wear it in a video maybe. Although, wouldn't that undercut my credibility? Like you had any to begin with, Vasel. Let's see. When does the Dice Tower Kickstarter go live? I'm shooting for January 5th, I believe, is the thing. Do you have any helmets? I don't believe so. I don't ride a motorcycle, so I do not have a helmet for that. No, I don't think I have any helmets. I might. No, I don't have any helmets. Okay, this is the second time I've been asked about Star Wars Battlefront. Isn't Star Wars Battlefront a video game? I'm confused why I keep getting asked about this. Star Wars Battlefront. Yeah, it's a video game. So no, I haven't played it. Is it? I mean, assuming it's a video game, isn't it? If it's an MMO, the answer is no with a capital N and a capital O. I do not play MMOs at all. I do not want to play them. I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. I want to play them, but I don't, if you know what I mean. I know that I will spend much time with those because they never end. I play other video games, and I'll play it, and then I will get bored with it, and then I will stop playing it because I'm bored with it. And eventually, because I've done everything that there is to do. Even in Skyrim, eventually I faded out of that. But with an MMO, you can never stop playing. And people always say, Tom, how do you get so much stuff done? Part of it is not playing MMOs. For sale, which would you recommend? The new yellow version or the older Griffin Eagle one? Well, probably the older one, because unless you live in Europe, you're not getting the new one, because that one's only being sold there. I'm a songwriter. Would you have any interest in having me submit songs about board games to your channel? Well, send them to me, and we'll talk. But do that through email. I think some of you are asking the same questions twice. Once again, this is the thing for all my videos. If you ask a question the first time, I skip it over. Asking it the second time makes me skip it just that much faster. Let's see. Yes, we're having to skip some conventions each year. Like, for example, this year we are not going to TotalCon. We are not going to Grand Con. There's a possibility that we would do those again in the future because they are fun to do these smaller conventions, but we can only do so many conventions a year. That's all there is to it. Now that you reviewed the expansion for Kemet, which game do you prefer overall? Cyclades plus Titans or Kemet plus Tassetti? Well, if you watch my top 100, you know that even without the expansion, I already liked Kemet better. And I mean, with the expansion, it's just that much more. I like Cyclades with Titans a lot. I mean, a lot. But Kemet's better. My favorite Christmas song. Ooh, I was working on a top 10 of this the other day. I know, I do top 10s in my spare time for no reason at all. But this is the season for Christmas music, and I love Christmas music. I start playing it in November. I don't care what people say. And I had a big problem where I lost almost all my Christmas music. Now, normally nowadays I listen to Pandora, very finely tuned Pandora stations, but Pandora does not play some of the different music that I like for Christmas. My favorite Christmas song is probably many of you would not know this one, but I would think it's either A Strange Way to Save the World or Joseph's Lullaby. I like the perspective of the father, as being a father myself. As my favorite albums, of course, who doesn't like Charlie Brown Christmas? That's a great album. I also like Roger Whittaker. I think he does, like, most of his songs are like original when they came out. They're not like the same old Walking in a Winter Wonderland, and I think they're very well done. I just got an album from Pentomix, I think they're called, which I thought was really well done. I like the Carpenters. I like the Jackson 5 because it's so upbeat. You know, sometimes I need that upbeat. I'm a big fan of both Mannheim Steamroller and the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I really like of course, Bing Crosby and, you know, the classics. I like those, but you hear those all the time. So I tend to go for stuff that's not heard quite as often. One of my favorite albums is the Bare Naked Ladies because I love their rendition of Jingle Bells, Elf's Lament. I really like. So I don't know why I'm talking about all this Christmas music, but that's my favorite Christmas stuff. I have, I think, 800 songs on my playlist. I'm very happy with it, although I'm winnowing a couple of them out. There's a couple songs that I delete as soon as I hear them. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Like, I will not listen to another Do You Hear What I Hear or Little Drummer Boy because I find those songs really annoying. I also don't like the song Maybe It's Cold Outside because I think it is, I'm not very, I'm just not a big fan of that song. So there's some songs, and there's only so many times I can listen to the Christmas song. Really, if you're recording a Christmas album, stop doing the Christmas song. It's by far the most, when I look at my playlist, it's the most. I'm going to go through and delete some of them because I can only hear that song so many times. Will I be doing a review of Spirits of the Rice Paddy? I will be doing that. I don't know why I said that. Lemonade, limeade, or orangeade? Which is your favorite? Oh, by far, limeade. But I do think it's interesting because if you're outside America, lemonade is very different. You know, this is something that Jason learned when we went to Germany. He was asking for lemonade, and they were bringing him lemon soda. And outside America, as far as I know, no one drinks lemonade, which is lemon juice. Lemonade means lemon soda. Lemon juice in America is a big deal. I like limeade, but especially cherry limeade. That's my favorite. But lemonade is good. It's fresh is good. Orangeade, I don't know what the difference between orangeade and orange juice is. I'd rather have an orange Julius, frankly. But I'm not drinking orange Julius's. I'm drinking water. Let's see here. I'm not answering my top 10 Dice Tower contributors. Come on now. Will Dice Tower Showdown have a revival at any point? I talked to Bill Corey and to one of the producers of the show at Board Game Geek Con, and we will likely see it at some point. Does anyone in your family play a musical instrument? Melody plays the clarinet. I play the piano. I I know how to play the trumpet, although I'm very bad at it, so we won't talk about that. But I do like to play the piano. What was your worst board game night food disaster? I don't think I've ever had one, actually. I mean, maybe some like stuff got tripped on a card or something, but I can't think of one. I'm sure it's around the corner at some point. What are the best and worst things about going from a board game hobby to being more of an insider professional reviewer? Well, the best thing is just, I'm doing what I like. That's amazing. The worst thing is I think that I lose some of the wonder, sometimes. Like, there's a Fantasy Flight game coming in the mail to me today. I'm pretty sure it's the Hero Quest card adventure game. I'm assuming that's what it is. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. While before I'd be like, what? A package in the mail. I'm totally immune to packages coming in the mail. Packages show up, I'm like, a package. And sometimes I'm like, a package. Depends what the package is from. So there's that. But I mean, the positives are outweigh the negatives. For me, like going to conventions is a much more fun experience, I think, because it's not hard for me to find people to play a game with and things like that. So I like it. What's my favorite holiday movie to watch with my family? Well, Charlie Brown, I mentioned I like the music, but I also, that's the best, I think. But I also like Nestor, the long-haired donkey. I like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I like pretty much any of the Hanna-Barbera stuff. I like it all. Lately, I've been I want to watch The Year Santa Went Missing. I think that's Hanna-Barbera. I haven't seen that one in a while, and I really love that song, Heat Miser, from it. For non-animated stuff, Elf is fun. I love A Christmas Story. My wife hates it. That's the one movie that I think in our lives, that's the one movie I think we disagree about the most. She just absolutely despises that movie, and I just chant, "You'll shoot your eye out" all the time. Why do you say almost between all questions? I'm sorry. Ooh. Why are the Q&As, they're not HD, but everything else on the channel is? Why there's black bars on the side? I'm having a pain in the neck trying to figure this out. OBS, which is what I use, has resolutions, and this is the resolution that they're sticking me with, and I've gone and read online like how to change that. I don't think it's a huge deal, but I would love to get it fixed. But I can't figure it out. I went online and like changed this resolution. That resolution's not offered here in OBS. Why is that? I don't know. Are you going to get the Risk Star Wars Black Edition? Do you know it's on sale for $29.99 today on Amazon? I do know that. Let's see. Out of all the top 10 lists that you recorded in the past, which one would you consider revisiting in the near future? Probably none of them in the near future. We're going to do all of them over at some point. Usually I think 4 or 5 years is a good time to do something between them. I'm actually hoping that our top 10 essential games every gamer should have, I'd love for that to hit 1 million views before we redo that one. The one that's probably changed the most, I would guess, from when we did it, would be the cooperative game one. But we'll do that one eventually. Let's see. Do you watch Survivor or The Amazing Race? I watch them sporadically. Survivor I watch for a while, and then I usually get a little irritated by parts of it. Nowadays, when I watch these shows, and this is something I found that's really fascinating. I guess it goes back to an earlier question. Someone said, what's the difference between, being a regular gamer and doing this? Whenever I watch anything now, I'm thinking about the videoing. I'm thinking, where's the camera guy right now? Where is he standing? How are those camera guys not seeing each other? Oh, look at that graphics they just did. How did they do that? So that always takes me out of these shows sometimes, especially reality shows. I'm thinking, did they edit that in from another spot? I'm thinking about all the editing that's being done. I like The Amazing Race way better than Survivor because I think while there's certainly some problems with it as a game, they have artificial catch-up mechanisms, which I complain about in games. But I like the idea of going to different countries. I think that's fascinating, and I would love to go on The Amazing Race. I think it'll be super fun. I also think that I would do pretty well on it too. But then again, probably not. Once again, I got shot down to the bottom and found out that I have 600 kabillion questions. So, let me answer some. What's the jewel of my board game collection? I don't think I have any jewel. I mean, if the game I'd get rid of last, I guess Cosmic Encounter. It's my favorite game. But I don't have necessarily a jewel. I do deliberately keep the ones I like in the middle. How can I get a Dice Tower shirt? Go to dicetower.com and go to the buy t-shirt link. Have you heard there's going to be a Childhood's End miniseries on sci-fi? I have not heard that, but that's one of those books that I need to get around to reading. I think Eric read that book or something. So, but I don't. I know it's really bad. Eric is an audio reader, and he works for Audible, and I should be listening to books with him, but I just love to read myself. I don't know what there is. I just love reading, and now that I have a Kindle, I can. I was on the plane the other day, and I was like, "Oh, I want to read a book! Quick, download it!" And then I start reading it. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very good book, but it still was a neat idea. Press start to play. Yes, that's the name of the story collection about video games I'm talking about. So I never keep track of where I am in the book. I've read a lot of the stories, though I'm assuming I'm near the end. And I would say that about 50% of them I really liked, and 50% of them were eh. And there was a couple I just really disliked. A couple I started reading and I skipped to the end of that. That's what I like about short stories, is because I'm not interested, I can just skip and go on. How do I store my Ticket to Ride stuff? Badly is the answer. You can't see here, I got all the boxes here, and I have all the Ticket to Ride stuff in those. And I thought, ooh, I got a good idea. I'll put all the trains in one box, and I'll put all the cards in another box, and I'll put the boards in another 2 boxes. That sounds good until you actually want to go play the game somewhere. Then I have to end up taking all the boxes with me. So that was kind of a pain. Then the Ticket to Ride Anniversary came out, and I was like, ooh, this is the one I'll use, and I'll keep these. I'm going to have to resort them at some point. I think what I'm going to do, and this will be horrible, I know, is probably cut them down to like the 3 maps I like the most. Maybe. Did you stop reviewing Eldritch Horror expansions because you thought it had enough coverage, or because Fantasy Flight stopped sending you review copies? I have not stopped reviewing it, I've just delayed reviewing it because I'm so far behind on it, and it's not like Eldritch Horror gets to the table as that often. That's all. Let's see here. Is there a game that needs an expansion ASAP? I don't think there's one that needs one ASAP. There's some that need them. The one game that needed an well, okay, actually I do have an answer for you. Is Magic the Gathering. That needs an expansion now. The board game needs one now. Get those expansions out. Do not let this game die. Get those expansions out. Because I was thinking the one that got killed, Battleship Galaxies, that one got killed because it never had expansions for it. Do you watch The Walking Dead? I don't. There's a couple reasons I don't watch it. One, I'm not a big fan of zombies. There's a couple zombie things that I've liked. World War Z, I found amusing just because it took things, it was like 1,000. It wasn't like this. I'm not a big horror fan of this whole zombies coming to get you, but like when 1,000,000 zombies are coming and people are shooting them, that's okay. I like the one about the zombie and the girl falling in love. I like that one because that one was something different. But for the most part, The Walking Dead. And I've read the comic book of The Walking Dead. I stopped reading it. I stopped reading it when they got to the point that they are about to get to in the TV show now, because I do know where the TV show is. And if you've read the comic book, you'll know why. I don't want to spoil anything, but there was a character death, which I thought was unnecessary, over the top. One of the most brutal things I've ever read in a comic book, and I was already disliking the series, and I just got tired of it. There's no hope in that series. I don't think the good guys need to win every single second, but they should win occasionally, and in The Walking Dead, they never do. Ever. Yeah, Tricarion, I will mention this. I have not yet reviewed it. I just need to put more thought into it before reviewing it. That's why you haven't seen it yet. That's the only reason. It's not. And that's the reason I've been delaying it. I think next week there's a good chance of it coming out, but not promising anything. Sometimes you'll see these bigger games will get delayed longer because of that reason. I don't always pop a review out as soon as I'm done playing it, because sometimes I need to kind of ruminate on them to some degree, and Tricarion's one of those. Do I like hummus? I don't. Maybe I'll have to eat more of it now, but I tried some and I wasn't that big of a deal. What do you consider to be AP in a player? I know a ton of you Dice Tower hate AP, and I worry when I take a minute or more on my turn that I'm taking too long. For me personally, AP is when I get bored. So if I'm sitting there going, and the person just sitting there staring at the board, I find that very fun. Or when I consider a decision that's pretty obvious. Like recently I was playing a game with somebody and they had an option to take one of two cards. And they're very similar, doesn't make a big deal. Pick the red or the blue card, let's just use that. And they're like, counting up all the cards on the board. Count the cards on the board. And this is like at the beginning of the game. This has no effect on the end of the game. This is not that big of a deal. This person took a really long time. And it was driving me nuts. Do you put expansions with the original game? And how do you keep them separate when playing? Or do you not separate? I usually don't separate. It depends on what I think of the expansion. This person mentioned, Michael, mentioned Ascension. I just have Ascension all mixed together. Although Ascension's really close to being out of my collection, if only for the fact that I really like the app, and it does a good job at covering everything in there. If I think the expansion's vital, then I'll just throw it in the game. I'm going to play with it all the time anyway. If it's one that I'll use sometimes, then I'll bag it and separately, so it's easy enough for me to tell, oh, this expansion stuff, leave it in the box. Are you planning on making your pre-recorded gameplay videos a regular feature? I am planning on that. I'm planning on moving a little bit more towards that than live playthroughs. We'll still do live playthroughs, but the pre-recorded stuff is a little bit better. I think the 3-camera angle that we got going for Time Stories worked pretty well. At some point, I'm going to do something so that we can have a camera pointing straight down on the table rather than one looking at the table itself, but I'm still pretty happy with how that came across, and I think hopefully our editing for Marcy will be even better than our editing for the Asylum was. And we're not going to do spoiler stuff. We're going to do actual regular games through these playthroughs. So we're going to move into that territory. I know we're moving a little bit into Will Wheaton territory, but I'm not going to do the thing where we stop and I sit there and go, well, at this point in the game I was thinking this. I don't have a problem with that, but that's a ton of editing. So more like game night, I guess, from Board Game Geek is where I'm heading towards. Am I a fan of the old LucasArts adventure games? I am. I don't know if I played all. I know I didn't play all of them. I can't remember which ones I played. Sam and Max is probably my favorite one. Lincoln, Bobinkin, Banana Fana, Fofinkin. Yes, I do like that one. Top 5 sauces for fries. Okay, that's a good one. Habanero mustard. Oh, I'm sorry. The number one, by far, is cherry balsamic vinegar. Come on, folks. You gotta put vinegar on your fries. That is the best. But, okay, so you said sauce. I don't know if vinegar counts as a sauce. So we'll say the habanero mustard, mesquite barbecue, honey barbecue. I like barbecue sauces a lot. Ranch dressing is not bad for fries, although sometimes I put a drop of hot sauce in to give it a bit of a zing. And the 5th one, what do I dip my fries into? Teppanyaki sauce. I've done that. That's not bad. Bonanza is an immortal game. Which other immortal games can you recommend in this style? I don't know what that means. I don't think there's any game that's immortal. What? Okay. Sorry, I'm skipping a lot of questions here. How many board games do you have? I don't have any board games. That'd be pretty cool, though, if that's only made a game about boards. But you mean board games. And you're from Guatemala. Hooray, Guatemala. Board games, I have about 350. Oh, DayStarCon next year at 15,000 places, still too small. Oh, it's 1,500. There's a big difference between that and 15,000. 1,500 is too small. When we move to 3,500 the following year, we'll see if that fills up. What would be a game theme that you would love to see that you haven't already? Oh, there's lots of them. I answer that question all the time. I don't even know why I answered that. Read that question. There's lots of cool themes out there. Just think of something that no one's done a theme of, and it'll be done. Try Shoutcast. It has a station that play Christmas all year long if you want it. Well, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I wanted my own pick of music, and so that's why I just use my own Christmas library. I own very few music at this point. I use Pandora for almost anything, but I own my Christmas collection. Well, let's see. I know zombies aren't your thing, but there's a Run Walk app, Zombies Run, that makes exercising into somewhat of a game and can be great motivation for getting out. I've heard of that. I believe Will Wheaton is using that currently, and so that's something that I've considered. You know, you turn anything into a game, and it makes it more fun, right? Which is why some people say, "Hey, don't keep track of your weight every day for when you're losing weight because it'll be discouraging." Blah blah blah. But to me, it's a game. Then you're like, "Woo! I went down by 0.3." I love numbers, and I love seeing numbers go up and down. Top 10 monsters. That needs to be narrowed. You're going to have to ask that, like, is it top 10 monsters from D&D? Is it top 10 monsters in movies? Is it top 10 giant monsters? There's just too many things considered monsters. Is it top 10 human monsters? I've never played 1,000 blank white cards, and I probably never will. I like rules. Of the two legacy mechanic games coming out next year, Seafall and Chronicles Origins, which do you think is the most interesting? Seafall. But I will be honest and say that's because I trust Plaid Hat games more than I trust Artana games. They both might be good. The designer, Rob Daviau, is on both, although Rob Daviau is designing one, and the other one is Rob Daviau with Dirk from Artana Games. So the Seafall one is more of my thing. Muppets Christmas, yeah, I have their music too. Oh, David Bowie and Bing Crosby, they're mixed. I will agree on that. Brandon Graham mentioned that they did a mix of Little Drummer Boy by Bing Crosby with David Bowie is by far it's actually one of my favorite Christmas songs, and yes, it's the only version of Drummer Boy that I actually like. And if you read the story behind that one, it's really interesting too. How do you feel about Star Wars 7 being rated PG-13? Will you still bring your kids? Probably. I can't imagine it being I'm assuming that it's rated that for gunfire. I don't know why it's rated that. Who knows? Maybe I'll look at a family review of it before I take them. I'm not going opening night, probably. Do you want to build a snowman? No, go away. Let's see. Did you ever get rid of a game and then need to buy it again to review the expansion? No. So this is what happens. Let's say I get an expansion and I've already got rid of the game. Well, the easiest thing is I live in an area where there's guys who own 1 million games. So one of them has it. For example, tomorrow night I'm going to be playing German Railroads, which is the expansion of Russian Railroads. Now, I like Russian Railroads a lot, but it's just not big enough for my collection, good enough for my collection. So I don't have it any longer, but several people in my game group do, so I've asked them to bring Russian railroads, so I can play German railroads. So I plan to play that tomorrow. Do you ever play test games made by fans of the Dice Tower? Screams Sean in all capital letters. I try not to. I really don't. If you come to me with a convention and say I have a prototype, I have a test game, I would probably say no to it. The only way you can get me to look at a prototype is if I'm working with you as a publisher for that very reason. So I will look at prototypes occasionally with Arcane Wonders for the Dice Tower Essentials line. Or you are like, your name is Eric Lang, or a really well-known designer, and you have something that's going to be published in a few months, and I'm just seeing an early version of it, I'm fine with that too. Or if someone who I highly respect comes to me and says, Tom, I played this game, it's amazing, you need to try it, which has happened a few times. Other than that, I say no across the board. Not to be mean, I just don't have time. If I start looking at prototypes, that's all I will look at. I probably should have said that very loud because I should answer an all caps question with all caps response. I thought the three of you like Fury of Dracula the same. How comes you don't like it as much? Well, I like it. They just love it. Okay? I think there's the differences there. I think it's interesting and fun and unique. It might be a little long for me, I guess, but I don't know. I just like it. I don't love it as much as they do. There's no, like, any reason. I think the more that they like it, that much more. Do I wear any lucky items when I play board games? No. How many Dice Tower contributors does it take to screw in a light bulb? There seems to be a making of a really good joke there. I enjoyed Sam's review on Epic, however, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. I do plan to play it. It's high on my list of games to try out. Oops, and we shot down to the bottom again. What is wrong with this? Whew, I'm not so far off on questions now. I work at a recording studio. I heard you're thinking of upgrading your audio gear. Would you like me to give an opinion on what gear you're planning on getting? If so, I could email you. That is perfectly fine. One of the things that we're doing with our audio gear that I'd like to do for next year Kickstarter is I need to get mics. Now, this Bluetooth mic, fine. Although you heard some noise probably there when I took it off. It works fine, although it is big and clunky, but it's great because I can be really far away and the cameras don't have to be so close. But I like to get some wireless mics. Basically, that can also, that not just plug into the cameras and work, because that's another thing. I need to plug in the cameras. I don't want to have another soundboard and have to deal with an extra layer of sound. So I want them to go right into the camera. Rodney Smith has shown me some stuff, and I may be stealing some of his ideas because his sound is quite good. But I also want to be able to take these microphones to conventions, and if that convention has a soundboard, plug right into the soundboard. We got our wireless mics. I'm tired of these holding the mics at convention things. I want wireless mics so people can hear us. And so we don't have to mess with those. There's an aspect of the metagame in Time Stories that my group wishes we'd picked up on before playing Asylum. Talking about that wouldn't be a spoiler, would it? I actually don't know what that means. So, I think I know what that means, but I'm not sure. You'll have to email me probably about that one. Would you ever consider including a rating system for your game reviews? For example, rating the quality of the artwork, the game materials, mechanics, and or experience level recommended for the game. I'll tell you why I haven't done that. Okay, first of all, people put way too much stock in that. I also think that these rating systems are super convoluted, and no one ever seems very interested in them. You're like, but the problem that they have is the same problem I have with when I was a grader at school. The rubric, right? You say the artwork was a 10, and the components were a 9, and this was a 6, and this was a 7. But you know what? The game, it was a 4. Sometimes that happens, right? But if I add all these numbers together, I get these artificial numbers, and the game looks better than it is. Also, that's a whole pile of work. And I like to just give my opinions and impressions of the games more. Are you going to record all your time story sessions until they get boring? Yes. Any other Cyber Monday deals you know about besides Star Wars Black? I don't, but there's a lot that have to do with audio and Final Cut Pro stuff, and I've been watching all those, going, I'd really like to get that. I really like to get that camera, so on. So there's some of that going on. Mage Wars Arena has been completely replaced by Academy by everyone. I don't know, by everyone. By me and Sam. I don't know who else. Due to it being shorter and streamlined, but no one seemed to have a problem with its complexity before Academy came out. Right, but that's because we didn't know it would be better streamlined. I didn't have a problem with Mage Wars Arena. It's one of my favorite games. The fact is, I liked Academy that much better that I was like, why am I playing this older one? It's kind of like if you're riding on a horse and it's great, and then someone drives by in a car, and you get in a car, you're like, why was I ever riding on that horse? It's that same kind of idea. Doesn't mean it was bad or even is bad. It's just that I like Mage Wars Academy that much better. Have you watched the Next Great American Board Game? I did, and I believe I reviewed it on one of the Board Game Breakfast episodes, I think. It's interesting. It becomes, like, halfway through, it stops becoming about the board games. It becomes about the subject of it. Yeah, I would certainly recommend watching it. Did you buy that game with magnets in it at Essen? What game with magnets? You mean like the... There's a lot of games with magnets. Oh, I know. You're talking about bells. No, I meant to get bells, and I never did. I thought I got bells somehow, though. I didn't see it show up in my games, though. It might be downstairs in that pile of hundreds of games. That was fun, though. In fact, this week we'll be posting Jason Goes to BGGCon. So you can see what he did there. I don't know what's on that video. I'm always worried about his videos. Who knows what he has? What do you think of the new Kraken expansion of Abyss? Well, if you give me this week, you'll see, because I'm reviewing it this week. Do you do all the editing? I do much of it. Sam and Z do a lot of it too. Have I thought about getting a dedicated editor? Well, certainly. I would like to get a dedicated editor. That's something that we're looking into. Am I back? Am I streaming? Hang on. Well, folks, I don't know what happened there. It looks like my internet went out, and it looks... Did it go out again? Am I back? I am back. Okay, people said I'm back. I'm not seeing it here. I'm sorry about that. Apparently my internet went out for a brief moment, which made the program crash and everything. That's odd. Send me more music. I'd love to hear more music. I'm not looking for theme songs maybe for the channel, but you never know. If I hear a really great theme song, you never know what might happen. Okay, I'm looking for interesting questions here. What's your personal view on Carcassonne Star Wars? I actually have not played it. That was Sam. I gave that one to. I've just resigned myself to the fact I can't play everything. I can't. So there are games that Sam and Z are going to play. And now if they say something to the effect of, this is really good, or Tom, I think you'll really like it, I'll go out of my way to play it. Because I do want to try as much stuff as I can. But the fact is I can't play them all. So Sam played Star Wars Carcassonne. He's like, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm like, great. I don't have to worry about it now. I don't think about it. I'm sure it's fine, but I don't think my life will be less for having not played it. And that's a lot of games. After watching a review of the Gallerist, what are some of the 2 to 3 hour Euros that you do enjoy playing? Well, Le Havre is definitely one. Caverna is certainly another. Russian Railroads is probably not 2 hours, but that's one that I like. Viticulture, I don't think... It can take 2 hours for 5 or 6 players. That's one that I really do like. Democker is a game that I like a lot. That has a pretty that's a long time frame. I do tend to like shorter ones, I guess, than I do like longer ones. I'm sure there's other ones that I'm not coming to mind right now that I like, but those are the top ones for sure. I said I like Castles of Burgundy over Goa. Is that still the case? I don't know. There's a good chance I'll never play either one of those in my life again, even though I do like them. But I don't like them enough for them to make my top 200. And if a game's not in my top 200, the chance of me playing it again is pretty low. I don't know. Are there any plans for Roombound 3rd Edition review? Yes. I like this question because someone says, is Pandemic Legacy as good as the hype? Well, considering I was part of the hype, why would I say no to that? I mean, I'm not going to be like, you know what, guys? Now, I said that Pandemic Legacy was great in my review, but not that really that great. That would make me a very dishonest reviewer. If I come on and I say a game is amazing, I mean it, because I really think it's that amazing. Well, I swing by Nottingham. I probably should, right? I apologize. I'm not tremendously familiar with English geography or British geography. I know where the different countries are in Great Britain, and I know where London is on the map, but I don't know a lot about everything else. So I'm not really sure. We're gonna come in at least a day early because we want to see London. Although I don't know what I want to see in London. So maybe some of you live in London can meet us and help us see the things we should see when we're in London. But I don't know. All right. Well, a few more minutes and a few more questions. So let's take a look here. Dice Tower Essential Line, when will we hear more? Well, you'll see one of the Onitama is coming to print very soon. When that happens, you'll hear a big deal about it. I should get the first copy of that game. So when it comes to me, when you see me do a full-fledged review on it, that means it's coming soon. We have several games coming out in 2016. Hopefully that will make up the lack of any games in 2015. So just keep an eye out for those. They're coming. This person says, have you ever won Grizzled? The answer is no. But I think the better question would be, have you ever played Grizzled? And the answer is no. I've watched people play it, but I have not played it. That one was in Z's wheelhouse, and so that's one of the games I passed on to him. Now, that's one of those games that I probably will try at some point. Is Kemet good for 2? BGG says no. I would agree there. I would also not play it with 2 players. Can you list some amazing games released this year? Yes, that's what we're going to do. This week we're doing our top 10 gaming surprises. These are games that we were like, wow, these are really fun. But they are not our top 10 games. So they're not necessarily the 11 through 20, but they're 10 great games that we were like, wow, these were much better than we thought they were. Games that we want to bring to the forefront that you might have missed, because our top 10 games are going to be games that people probably have heard of. I think. You might be surprised at some of the games on my list. But, so that's what's coming up this week. Next week, I believe we'll be doing our top 10 gaming experiences of the year. The week after that will be probably, it will either be our top 10 of the year or it will be the year as a whole, looking at all the different things of the year and so on. So that's what's going on there. And there's more stuff we'll be announcing. Like I said, there's a lot of different videos this month. We're working on a lot of different things. We're trying to put out, a full production schedule throughout the whole month of December. Even during Christmas week, you'll see videos coming out that week. My kids take off, but I won't. I'll take off. We'll take off a few days because we are going to go see Star Wars, and that might turn into a road trip somehow. We're still working on the details for that. But anyhow, that's all the time I have for Q&A today. I might do some more of these Q&As to catch up, so keep an eye out. There might be another one this week. Maybe I'll do one with Sam and Z at some point. I'm not sure. Depends on how much we get done of the editing and everything. Sorry that the video cut out halfway through, or not halfway through, but just a few minutes ago. But at least it got to the end. Folks, I appreciate your questions. I appreciate you coming on board and watching these. I hope that you have a great day, a great week, a great December, and a holly jolly Christmas. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.